So if, like me, you didn't get a Panzer V on the black market, but you're also a little obsessed with it, there's a collector's vehicle that's a statistically good tier 5 medium tank, and also looks just similar enough to the Panzer V that you should take a look at it if you don't already know it. So I'm looking through the German collector's vehicles, putting on different modules, thinking, ooh, what's a VK 2001D? Never seen one before. And then I find this. And I'm like, wait a minute, where have I seen this turret before? And that's right, that's the same turret as the Panzer V. Now to anyone that's laughing right now, because the turret's actually the worst part of the Panzer V, first of all, I don't pick my tanks by how much I can ruin other people's games in them. And second of all, bear with me, because once you start comparing this thing to other tier 5 medium tanks, and to the Panzer V, it actually looks pretty good. Now I'm in no way suggesting that this thing is as ridiculous as the Panzer V, but I think it's worth a look. So that's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to take a look at this thing's stats, compare it to other tier 5 medium tanks and the 5.4. Also take a quick look at the 3D armor profiles, and then I'll switch to some gameplay of this and the 5.4, show you this thing's strengths and weaknesses, and give you a real feel for how it plays and for how fun it actually is. And basically save you the 315,000 credits that you would have to spend to try this out, and just show you what it's like. And if you like it, well then you found a cheap 5.4 lookalike that, well, you can have some fun with until the next chance we get to waste our money gambling on a rare, broken pixel tank that's ruining this game for others. Alright, now on to Tanks GG. Now before we do this, keep in mind what kind of monster we're comparing the Panzer III-4 here to. The general consensus is that the Panzer V-4 is ridiculous and shouldn't be in the game. So think about that as we go through this. What I have here is the Panzer III-4, the Panzer V-4, and 4, I think, decent to average tier 5 medium tanks that I'm going to be comparing the Panzer III-4 to. So let's start with the DPM. The DPM is actually pretty good. It's only worse by 90 compared to the 5.4. It is a lot worse than the T-34. Then again, the DPM on the T-34 is that thing's main feature. And looking at the DPM compared to the M4 and the 4H and the 3001H, it's actually a lot better. So that's, I would say, average to decent. Penetration is the same as the Panzer V-4, which should be the case since they have the same gun. And overall, I would say penetration is adequate and maybe slightly below average. It's a little worse than the M4, and it's a lot worse than the VK 3001H, but then again, that thing has a tier 7 gun on it. Then again, that thing doesn't really have anything else going for it. Looking at the damage, it's, well, it's average. It's got the same gun, as I said, as the 5.4, so it has the same damage. It's a little better than the T-34, it's a little worse than the M4, and it's average. It's average. Rate of fire is basically a consequence of the DPM. Again, DPM is pretty decent. Let's go on to the gun handling. And this is one of the weaknesses of this tank. Aim time of 2.21 seconds is pretty good for an overall tier 5 medium tank. It's worse than the 5.4, which has ridiculously good gun handling as well. The dispersion is also not very good, of 0.37. It's not terrible if you look at other tier 5 medium tanks. T-34 is decent, M4A1 and Panzer IV-H have worse or the same dispersion. So I would again say dispersion is adequate, but playing with this tank, you really have, this is the main thing you have to compensate for, the aim time and the dispersion. So I would recommend the according equipment. Dispersions while moving, so shooting on the move, are good in the 3.4 compared to other tier 5 medium tanks. But again, not good compared to the Panzer V-4. But keep in mind, that thing is ridiculous. It's probably one of the most overpowered tanks in the game. So any tier 5 tank is going to look bad compared to this, and the 3-4 isn't even doing that badly. And here's one area where it actually does better than the 5-4. Now, gun depression on paper is 10 degrees on both tanks, which is good, but 5-4 only gets that over the sides. 3-4, because it has that step, gets that over the front, which is really, really useful. Gun depression on the 5-4, if it's like the one on my Aufklärungspanzer, isn't good. I mean, on the front. But on the 3-4, it is actually good. It makes this thing really flexible. And speaking of flexibility, here we have speed, and this is where the 3-4 shines. The speed is itself, the top speed is the same as the 5-4, and basically the same as the T-34, and better than all the other Tier 5 medium tanks that I'm looking at here. But the power to weight is fantastic on the 3-4. It's got light tank power to weight. It's better than my Aufklärungspanzer, unfortunately. It's so much faster and so much more nimble than the other Tier 5 medium tanks, and you really feel that. This thing's traverse, the way it drives, it's fun. It's really quick, it's fun to drive. What has to be said here is that while it is quick and turns quick and is really good in like engagements on hills and around obstacles, and it really has the Panzer V beat in that regard, the Panzer V is still a quick tank. It's still fast. It's still got the same forward speed, and if you just, once it gets up to speed, it's just as fast. So don't think you're going to be outrunning a Panzer V. You're going to be outturning it, and if you're fighting around an obstacle, this thing is actually going to do well, especially if you remember to shoot the 5-4 in the turret, but it's not way faster than the 5-4. I can't even claim that, but it is fun to play. The terrain resistances are also really good for a Tier 5 medium tank, except for, of course, the 5-4, but even that can't save the mobility of the 5-4 compared to the 3-4, because its effective speeds on terrains are really a lot worse than the 3-4. Speaking of armor, on paper, and this is what I thought when I first looked at the 3-4, what got me so excited, I was like, ooh, 80 hull armor? Panzer V has only 85. Well, 3-4 looks amazing, but no. I'm gonna go into the 3D armor models in a bit. And I will show you. The 5-4 is obviously completely ridiculous, and the 3-4 is more of a trollish armor. It can work. I will show you a quick snippet of gameplay where I'm 1 versus 2 medium tanks and I bounce a lot of shots. But it's not nearly as good. It is pretty decent compared to other Tier 5 medium tanks, and you can occasionally bounce something, but it's nothing like the 5-4. I would never claim that. Camo, it's adequate, it's average. View range, slightly worse than the Panzer V, and actually overall only, I would again say adequate. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So now, let's go into the 3D armor models. Actually, before I go into there, I want to sum this up real quick. So, Panzer III-4 strengths are its gun depression and its great mobility. Weaknesses are its poor gun handling. So you definitely have to compensate for that when playing it, but you can make it work. Now onto the armor profiles. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's already well known how ridiculous the Panzer V-4 is. What I want to point out though is that the Panzer III-4 has its 80mm of armor up here, only on the upper part of the frontal hull, which results in 120mm. And in the lower part, it's actually just got 60mm, which results in 100mm of effective armor. What this means is that you will bounce Tier 4s and Tier 5s. You cannot rely on it, unlike the Panzer V-4, which has this ridiculous red slap in the front with 150mm, which will completely crush any Tier 5 tank. This thing right here will obviously, I don't have to tell you, you know this, it will completely, you can't penetrate this in a Tier 5 tanks unless you hit that relatively small turret. In that case it's easy, but you have to hit it first. And gun handling on Tier 5 tanks is not that great. In a one-on-one, if you know this and you're close enough, maybe you have a chance, I'm not sure. In the 3-4, you only might bounce tanks. I have some gameplays where I go 1 versus 2 against equal tier medium tanks where they keep bouncing off me, but it's not likely, it's not reliable. I would never pretend that this thing is bouncing a lot of shots. It can happen, it will save your ass occasionally, but it's not reliable. One thing that's actually better on the 3-4 than on the 5-4 is its overall silhouette. The 3-4 has a smaller front and side profile, compared to the 5.4, which, if you've ever played a T-54 and a Centurion 7.1 back-to-back, you know how much of a difference that makes. But the difference in this case is not that great, so it's not that big of an advantage. Maybe the 5.4's ass sticks out of stuff a little more than the 3.4, but that's about it. Again, to sum this up, this thing might bounce stuff, might get hit a little less often. This thing is just like a heavy tank, especially if people don't know that they can just penetrate you in the turret or don't manage to hit your turret. But then again, keep in mind, this is one of the most broken tanks in the game. So, with the armor model as done, let's go into some gameplay. I really want to show you how fun the 3.4 is to play, and how good it looks. So let's do that. Alright, so this is the first game I ever played in the Panzer 3.4. I have a 1-skill crew, it's our tier 6 match, and we're on fjords. And let me tell you, right after loading in, I immediately liked this tank. I've been fiending over the Panzer 5.4. I've been watching so many videos on it, and playing this thing, looking at it, especially from the rear, it looks similar enough to where I got really excited. Also, it's so quick and so nimble that it's one of those tanks that just feels refreshing to play. You know what I mean? You know, when you get into a tank, it's quick and nimble and turns fast, and it's just fun. T-54 is like that for me, and this one also is. So let's look at what I'm doing here in my first game. It's fjords. I'm going through the middle, thinking I can get away with it, and I can. The only thing that shoots at me is arty, and the enemy team is deploying a, shall we say, novel strategy. They take their top tier heavy tanks through the middle of the field, which is really a good test for this tank. First tank I see is a ELC, and well, I don't get to hit him. Aim time is not quick enough. And here's that heavy tank number 6, and this is fantastic. Here you can see the good DPM of this tank. He gives us his side. I suppose you could call him a paid actor. And we just get to go to town on a top tier heavy tank. That's great, and he's down. Now our team is actually not doing well. It's not already a win for us. Let's put it that way. Let's see. Next tank we spot. I'm gonna try and have some shots at the middle. And look, there's looks. Lucky that one went in because the aiming circle was still really large. There's even more tanks coming. Perfect. Another shot that missed because, again, bad aim time, not very good accuracy. It's not terrible accuracy, but it's not good accuracy. And what I'm doing here, sort of trying to out DPM an Excelsior, I don't expect that to be a good idea. I don't know his DPM like that, but I'm sure it's higher than mine because he's a British tank with one of those whatever pounder guns. Alright, won't get to kill this Panzer 3J. He's already dead. And here I'm doing what happens all so often to me. I'm sort of making a bit of a mess of it. Trying to figure out, okay, who do I want to shoot at? Do I want to shoot at people in the middle? Are they coming up the middle? Is there anyone in that northeast corner? Or, well, look, there's another tier 5 German medium tank, the one we were talking about earlier. It's a 3001H, and he's even got a fancy camo on. So let's look at how we do against him. And it looks. This right here, this kind of snapshot, that was lucky, I would say. It works, but that was lucky. And there's the next kill on the Excelsior. And a Chaffee. Get to take him out. Gun is... You can see, the gun does relatively well. It's not terrible accuracy. But I will show you, as we take out a medium, I will show you some gameplay later where it really struggles. This is not a long-range sniper. These ranges, that's about as far as you can reliably go with 0.36 accuracy, I believe I had in this. I don't have a Brothers in Arms crew yet. I'm not running vents. I'm just running improved aiming here. So moving up here, game is looking good for us. And now I want to get some shots at these tank destroyers. There's a Stug. Aiming, aiming. Really need to do something about the aim time if you can. Hit him. Hit him again. Accuracy at this range is good. And get to kill him. There's an IKV. We got another shot at him. He misses with his derp gun and then he moves into cover. And well, we won't get to kill him. Unfortunately, my first game, 5 kills, good. 1760 damage, but it's not a top gun. And I'm gonna fast forward this here and take you into the next game because I also do not get to kill the last RD. Would have been cool to get a top gun in my very first game in this tank, but it wasn't to be. So the last game showed this thing's strengths to a certain extent, especially its good DPM and sort of adequate mid-range accuracy. In this game is going to be a little bit different. In this game, I'm going to purposely show you its weaknesses. I'm skipping the start of this battle because not much happens. And the reason I picked this replay is coming up. It's this encounter with this Churchill 3, this tier 5 Russian premium tank. That's actually a British tank. And I'm going to test out this thing's armor here. So, I'm going to get closer to him. At first, I'm sort of side scraping, even though I should have moved closer to the building for that. I know I'm going to get his side here. Miss his side. Accuracy not reliable. Really need to do everything you can. Hit him here. He misses both of his shots, and at this angle, they would have penetrated me anyway. And now, after I wait here, how many friends of him are coming from the east? Nobody there. I'm going to get closer to him. And I'm going to put this armor to the test against his gun, which has 110 millimeters of penetration and 180 millimeters of premium penetration. Here, I'm missing a bunch of shots on the move again, really. Again. Get to hit him. His first shot strikes me. Then he goes through my upper plate, my middle plate. Keep shooting him, and he goes through my upper plate again at an angle. So he went through the entirety of my tank. And here I'm sort of shaking my head like, nope. This, no matter how much I want it to be, this is not a Panzer V. It's just not. I really want one. I really want one. Let's take a look here where he penetrated me, just to show you. So, there. All over my tank. The thickest part, the 80mm part. He just went through, even though it was angled. So, this armor against... I'm not sure if it was firing premium shots. Am I being stupid? I just couldn't figure that one out. I usually don't pay much attention to that, because what are you going to do? Would have made sense for the purposes of this replay, though. Anyway, so let's move on. Let me just flip this thing real quick. Thank you, Stug. I don't know. And let's skip a little bit. And let's show you, well, here I'm sort of spotting their base, trying to figure out where all their tank destroyers are. We find one. Aim forever again. Really, you have to do everything you can. Hit him actually, because once you're aimed in, the accuracy is adequate. Hit him again. As I said, adequate. You have to do everything you can to improve this thing's gun handling, I think. Because its speed is good. And you also have to run optics, unfortunately, because you just have to. Against, if you're fighting a T-67, what else are you going to do? You have to run optics. It only has, like, what? I already forgot. 370 meters of view range? You need optics. And well, coming up is the second weakness of this thing. Let's just wait a little bit. Wait for this battle to develop. And there is a Cavalier at long range, at the edge of the render circle. And I am struggling here. I'm basically missing him. Like, those critical hits are misses. Just cannot hit him. Now, this is extreme range. And there's another one. There's a Panzer Soufflé, as some call it. And look, I mean, that was sort of a bad shot, but this one, well, it actually hits. So, you know what? Considering this was extreme range, that accuracy, not even that bad. But when I was playing this, it felt terrible because I wanted to help out the team and I just couldn't get a kill on the side of tanks. Let's see who pops up next. And there's that Cavalier again. And here, side, he's stationary. Aiming in, didn't let it fully aim because it takes forever, missed. And somebody else gets the kill. So you get the point. The aim time is really a big problem on this. And the accuracy, now that I look at it again, I mean, well, you still can't call it good. It's just adequate. Like I said, it's just adequate, even though it didn't feel adequate here. So this was my third or fourth game in this tank, and this time there's actually a Panzer V on our team. And I'm sort of looking at him, feeding over that tank at the start of the battle, just thinking, ooh, I want one. It looks so good. I don't want one because I want to crush tier 5s. I just like it because I like it. I kind of wanted to come back. I want to get a chance to get it. At the same time, it's bad for the game. It's a sort of a dilemma, I guess. I'm just going to get one day and not play it a lot, just like I did with the E25 earlier. Anyway, we're here on Abbey, and we're keeping up with the light tanks at the start of the battle here. As you can see, we're actually in front of one. Again, this thing is really fast and really nimble. Good traverse, just... This is a little bit risky, obviously, going through the middle like this, but I felt in this situation and at this tier, you can go for it, especially if you have this thing's speed. And, well, enemy team is again employing a rather unusual strategy, I guess. And we will get to, after we aim in forever, but you have to compensate for this aim time any way you can. We get to kill a tier 4 tank. I'm sorry. And here an Artie gets spotted at long range, and I just don't realize that I don't have shots on him. Like, I try again, moving further. No, it's not gonna happen. Well, whatever. Now, the eastern flank, with our Panzer V, of course, is already at their base. Like, what else would you expect them to do? Even though I think that Artie is going to give him a bit of a hard time. And here I'm thinking, okay, do I want to help out the west? Am I going to have shots at the west? Do I want to go in the middle and snipe their base? But then I see how far our Panzer V already is there, so I think, no. I'm going to be more aggressive. I'm actually going to move up here, because then I can shoot them in the side better, and I can also move up and flank them. So, impossible shot on M4, because there was probably a wall in the way there. And here they're moving back, and, well, decent shot on a Excelsior. And I'm like, okay, I want more damage. And that M4, he evades me again. And I'm like, damn it! I don't want the Panzer V to get all the kills and all the damage. So move up. I'm gonna come up from behind them, as the M4 kills the Panzer V, so he's already dead. I guess he was a little bit too aggressive. I don't know. I just want one so bad. Fuck. So here I sort of faff around a little bit with the Artie. Like, what are you doing? Just come on. That's his gun. You can't even damage that. What are you doing? Anyway, I'm behind them. Perfect situation. Good DPM. Get one kill. There's an Excelsior. Let me give you a little lesson in DPM. I bounce one shot of a tier 4 tank destroyer. Then this mobility, he helps me here as I get around him. I'll traverse his turret and ammo him. That's a good explosion bonus. Another shot from a tank destroyer. Again, it's just a tier 4 tank destroyer. Sort of stupidly taking cover behind this Churchill because I don't want another bounce shot. I don't want that tank destroyer to shoot at my turret, because that's where he'll penetrate me, so I should expose my hull. Anyway, and I bounced another shot actually fired from above. So you can see, against lower tier tanks, this armor will hold up. Not reliably though, I don't want to claim that. But it saves me a lot of HP there. So here, after aiming in forever, get one hit. The second one misses. The third one hits. This is relatively close range, but it's a small target. And the fourth one hits as well. So 3 out of 4 is good. Now, you can see there, our, what is that? Our Excelsior. he is alone against 4 tanks, so I'm rushing here. I want to help him. I'm like, ooh, this looks good. Unfortunately, our team is capping. But, well, I have enough speed. I can get here sort of quick enough. And now it's a medium range engagement with my good DPM. I'm going to do well here. So let's see. Sort of shoot at the Leopard and hit the Asteroview, whatever that is. Again, the Largo, hit him instead. And just keep... I want to focus tanks. Take out their guns, but it's too late for the Excelsior. And unfortunately, this would have been such a good situation right here. As I get 1 kill. This would have been not a 5-kill game, but a 7-kill game. Even though I do take a lot of damage here, if my team has just not capped. But it is what it is. Still a good game. So to sum this up quickly, the Panzer IV is fast. Its gun handling is adequate, and with the right equipment and crew skills can be turned into relatively decent gun handling, especially for a tier 5. It's got good DPM. However, you cannot rely, thankfully, on its armor the same way you can rely on a 5 Force armor, which has the benefit that you don't have to feel guilty about playing this tank, as you might if you play the Panzer V, which doesn't stop me from wanting one really bad. Really, really bad. Oof. And yeah, that's the video. I would really appreciate a like, feedback. I would be really happy if someone actually subscribed. Like, if you want to see more, that definitely motivates me. And if you don't like what I'm doing, I would appreciate feedback on why. I suppose my rather subpar technical equipment might play a role. But anyway, if you don't like what I'm doing, you can always unsubscribe. So, yeah, see you next time.